Good morning. I am Kevin Price. Delighted to be with you, talking to you about you and your business, getting closer to the weekend. Looking forward to a great one. And you might want to spend it checking out the Battleship, Texas. That might be the suggestion we come up with you here on today's program. I've got Kelly Moore on. She is with Abby Executive Suites, and bringing us a guest today who is the director, in fact, of the Battleship Texas, a great historic site, and he's been a guest on the program before. But Kelly, before you introduce your guest, why don't you go ahead and tell us about why people should be aware of one of my favorite businesses here in Houston, Abby Executive Suites.
Thanks, Kevin. Well, Abby Executive Suite does turnkey office solutions for businesses large and small. We do meeting rooms, virtual office spaces, and pretty much all sorts of extras to help your business run smoother.
Yep, that's exactly what you do. You do it all the time, and you make it look easy. All right, tell us about your guest today.
Well, my guest today is Bruce Bramlett with the Battleship Texas Foundation. He is actually a client here at our Town and Country location, and it's got just some really interesting things going on at the ship that I thought your listeners would be interested in hearing.
Yeah, okay, let me make sure I have that. That's Bruce Bramlett?
Yeah, good morning.
Bramlett. And how do we spell Bramlett?
Bramlett.
There you go. All right, Bruce, tell us what you got going on over there at the Battleship.
Well, I would be a terrible guest if I didn't first put in a plug for Abby. The foundation office has been a client of Abby for, gosh, I don't know, Kelly, 4 or 5 years or longer, and great locations. But you know what? Locations are just geography. It's the people at Abby and the support they've given us and the work we do. So if you have folks in your listening audience that are looking for a great place to be, I would strongly suggest Abby.
Yep.
With regard to the ship, these are exciting times. Starting last month, we launched on a $17.5 million repair program. So if anybody's not been to the ship lately, it's almost worth the visit just to come down and see what's going on with these repairs. It's part of a step one in a process where we're attempting to do about $33 million in repair to the Texas, which is going to celebrate the 100th anniversary of its christening next March, and I want to say more about that in a minute. But this is really priority one is, if you have anything made of steel and it sits in salt water long enough, the erosion effects are really tragic, and frankly, the two big engines in the ship, we worry about the weight and how fragile the steel below those engines have become. And so priority one is we're going to suspend those two engines from the main deck while we repair the steel underneath them, and then additionally we'll move on and work on some of the structural steel. For your listeners, if you could think about someone's skeletal system and their bones really start to get brittle or start to actually disappear, that's kind of the state the ship is in. And then round two, obviously, we need to do some work on the hull, which is in places become so thin you could actually poke your finger through it. Mm-hmm. All of this designed for step three, which is ultimately the plan to build a permanent dry berth home for the USS Texas right where it's setting.
Yeah, not exactly seaworthy these days, but certainly still an extraordinary thing to see. It's over a century old, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It was actually launched in 1912, and I tell audiences a lot. Ironically, it's the same year that the Titanic was launched, and of course that one's on the bottom of the ocean. Ours is still sitting above it, but whether you're on the bottom or whether you're on the top, salt water still has a tremendous effect on anything made of steel. And then it was commissioned in 1914, which actually brings me to my earlier point where we're going to do two things next March that we're in the planning stages on right now. One is we're going to have the final former crew reunion on Wednesday, March 12th, and there'll be a ceremony to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the commissioning. This will be for former crew members and family of former crew members that have passed on. But then on that Saturday, which will be March 15th, we're going to have an all-day festival. We're hoping to draw 30, 40, 50,000 people. Right now, we're working on 3 live music acts. In addition to that, we're looking to see if it's possible to simulate a dogfight above the ship. We're looking at the possibility of simulating some of the gunfire with some of the weapons on the ship. We're going to have an entire area dedicated to World War I and II, where we'll have aircraft and land-based vehicles there.
Mm-hmm. Bruce, our whole interview is about 8 minutes, and I know that Kelly has got to ask some questions too. So let us, if you don't mind, have shorter answers and cover a little more territory. Kelly, I'm sure you got questions.
You know, I could listen to Bruce talk about this ship all day. It's one of the most interesting things that we have here in the Texas Gulf Coast area. I could not be prouder to have them as a client here at Abbey. One of the things that we've been doing for them, they have got a commemorative pistol that they've been selling, and we've been able to be really helpful to them in fielding phone calls and you know, kind of doing some of that. Why don't you talk about the pistol a little bit, Bruce?
I tell you, Kelly's understating that thing. When the news of the 100th anniversary 1911 Colt 45 came out, we averaged about a phone call a minute for about 3 days with people that were interested in it. We partnered with Colt Firearms a year ago, March, to design a 1911 Colt that was the original pistol. There were 100 of them issued to the Battleship Texas and to the New York. This pistol is designed to be that commemorative type item. Our contract with Colt allows us to sell 1,000 of them or take orders for 1,000 of them, and then they'll be produced between September and February of next year. At this point, we've taken orders for about 820, so we still have a few left, and any of your listeners that might be interested, they're certainly welcome to contact us at the foundation or visit our site at battleshiptexas.org.
Yeah, so it was involved in World War I and World War II, and it was decommissioned in 1948, 3 years after the war.
Yeah, and matter of fact, the great thing about the Texas has this incredible history that it's the only surviving U.S. Battleship that did serve in both world wars. And what people always find interesting are those little-known facts that you don't realize, like the movie Pearl Harbor. Much of that movie was filmed on board the Texas. Part of the movie Sand Pebbles was filmed there. We have a bunk in one of the hallways where Walter Cronkite used to sleep when he was a young correspondent. And I think your listeners probably get the idea. It's the story behind the story that most people don't know, and it's also the last Dreadnought-class battleship left on the planet.
Unfortunately, I have a ton of questions, but we are out of time. Great stuff. Abbey's a phenomenal place. Want to encourage you to check it out, as always, abby.com, or email abby@abby.com. Does a great job for my company as well. I can give it props, too, just like our guests. And also, if you want to learn more about the Battleship Texas, I encourage you to check out battleshiptexas.org. That's battleshiptexas.org. I'm Kevin Price. You're listening to The Price of Business.